Hi, this is Scott from Narrowbox Comics. I've been doing my research of comics, and I haven't been able to post a video for quite a while because I've been working hard on my Intrepid Issue 2 campaign, doing animating and planning out the campaign perks and doing all this stuff for Intrepid Issue 2 on Indiegogo. Make sure you back that. And I haven't had time to do my searches. I actually got Marvel 90s, was it Marvel 97 cents Marvel Universe app so that I could read old comics and do some stuff. It didn't quite work out as a plan. I really don't like that Marvel app. It's not great for reading comics. It varies between issues, and so I went back to just going to the comic book shop and picking up stuff for 50p and slowly going through the worst stuff that didn't sell. And here's one that we all know. This one, when I first went back to the comic book shop, this was on the shelf. It's like when I first discovered this particular comic book shop, Dark Star in Farnborough. Go check them out. It's a great shop. This was on the counter, and I remember thinking, that looks dumb. And I'd heard about this character dying, and every time I picked up Miss Marvel, the Marvel have really tried to push her, and the reason she doesn't take off is really obvious to me. And I don't think she's a bad character, but she falls into the trap that so many bad writers make. They're trying to use the heat of one character to create the new character, but that just creates a derivative link, and that now ties their fate together and just makes it twice as difficult to make the characters popular. Anyway, I'll explain more about what I'm saying. So I have read Miss Marvel on and off as I've been trying to figure out what happened in the comics industry in the last few years. And this comic really does sum up exactly what went wrong with Miss Marvel as a character. So look at that, 50p. I knew it wasn't going to sell. I knew it wasn't going to be a big hit. I knew that people would pick it up because look at it. 1. This is their strategy for everything. Let's make an issue 1. We'll put a 1 on it and that'll sell it. It's really annoying. Anyway, so Miss Marvel, if you don't know, is the first Muslim superhero. She's first Muslim superhero. It doesn't seem right, but that's what they're always saying about her. So she is a character that has been, the fans of her love her. People who don't really like her have been quite vocal about her. But the main reason that that's happening is because she's a character that's being given the spotlight in so many things, and yet she really isn't deserving of it. And I think that's the thing. It's like nepotism. It's like you're showing favoritism to your specific DEI character so that you can kind of, for that purpose, you're not telling great stories about them because the stories are great. You're bigging them up because of their identity, and people are getting sick of it. But this is a character that kind of started. Now, granted, I didn't know what to expect when I came into this book, and obviously they harp on the Muslim stuff quite a bit. And one of the things I actually liked about this book was that it wanted to show things that you wouldn't normally see. It's not very often that you'd be allowed to go into a mosque. I mean, you can go to a mosque and ask it to have a look around, and the imam there would probably allow it. It's just that not many people are interested in it. Muslim faith has been getting a lot of bad press, rightly or wrongly. I'm not making a decision on that. You're entitled to feel about anything the way you feel about it. So that's great. But Marvel have decided that they are trying to show other cultures, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. So I have no problem seeing something like this. The problem I have is how quickly this descends into absolute farce and really underpins why Miss Marvel is not a liked character by a huge section of Marvel's audience. So, for one, this story isn't particularly interesting. I think it would have been better if they showed her death, but this is kind of like a wake type thing. It's like an Irish wake. It just invite people into the mosque to remember the lives of people who were killed. And it's a community religious thing. And however you feel about religion, it is something that human beings do. We mourn when people die. Anyway, the story, we see all these people, lots of faces, lots of headshots and shoulders and mid shots. Not particularly interesting. And then we see this. Who's this man? And then explain, oh, it's Wolverine. He's dressed. Now this, I had a problem with this. The second I realised this was supposed to be Wolverine, I had a problem with this. Because Wolverine is an international traveller, and he does insert himself into other cultures. And rightfully so. He's a character who never gets called out for cultural appropriation purely because he's a world traveller. He's old. And he embraces and becomes part of these cultures for longer than most people live. So, but this one felt particularly forced because at no point in comics have we ever heard Wolverine speaking Arabic or whatever language he's speaking here. And basically he's saying, ala salami alaikum, I believe is I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not even going to try. But it's basically what they say in every episode of Homeland when the characters meet a Muslim person. And he didn't just say hello. He said the best hello. So we see this page here. You salam so beautifully. That the way I read this in my cultural view is, you say hello so perfectly in my language, you must be one of us. It's like, now this is where it starts to blur the lines of credibility. This conversation doesn't feel real. And Wolverine being who he is, this gruff, angry individual, hard drinking, whoring, it's not out of his realms. He's suddenly okay with wearing a flowy white robe and walking into religious things and fitting in perfectly. It felt weird reading that. So anyway, that's just one. And then it just gets more absurd. Here's my special copy with the staples. It's a special feature that Marvel have created. It's a stapleless pull out section. So if you don't like that bit of the story, you can just take it out, go straight to the bit where they're all hugging and crying. Anyway, this bit, Doctor Strange, talking about how he can bring her back to life, because Tony said something about maybe we could bring her back to life. And then Stephen Strange talks about how useless his powers are, this is another thing. Magic, when you're trying to make a character, you're trying to tell a story like this, you have to somehow push away the superhuman abilities of the protagonists in the story. And this is how they've done that. And this is an old thing. This is every comic has had to deal with. Every comic artist comic writers had to deal with this problem. You create powers that can change the fabric of reality. How can they not change it as something as simple as someone dying when they're bringing people back left, right, and centre? And then we get Steve Rogers. Now, bear in mind that Kamala Khan is a sidekick character for a character that didn't know she existed. She's a fan character. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is Captain Marvel. So her idol has turned up. Now I don't know at what point. From what I gather, she was an Avenger for a time, but that's like saying, I drink water. It seems like every superhero in the Marvel universe is an Avenger of some description. It's like a caveat. It's like, if I need to make an Avengers movie, I need to sign this character up, so I need them to be in the Avengers, even though they never go on missions or do anything. So we get Captain America, living legend. He wants to show up and say a few words. And so, I mean, again, I don't have any problems with it, but it all takes place in this. And then we get Captain America shows up. We're going to move into this section. This is her team, and I just look at them. It's like I would never read this book. They've stuck Miles Morales in there, and it's like, oh yeah, they've just experimenting. A team of sidekicky looking dudes, and I'm not quite sure if that's supposed to be the actual Nova. Why he suddenly looks like a 12-year-old, but yeah. Anyway, and then as a comic book, reader who's coming back to it after a long time away, looking at these characters, I have no idea who they are. Lady Thor, obviously. And I'm seeing these flashbacks of Kamala telling these Avengers off. This Lady Thor one. Please stop running over me when I'm talking, Thor. Now this entire sequence is meant to show that Kamala doesn't take sass from no one. That she is the top dog. She's not just a sidekick to a character that didn't know she existed. She's something special. And I think this is the thing about the character. I mean, I could go on all day picking this comic apart, but I don't really think there's much value in doing that. The one thing I would say about Kamala as a character is that she hasn't earned any of what she's got. She has been gifted a platform. Marvel Comics as a platform has elevated her, like it elevated Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel. But the thing about Carol Danvers is she was a character that's kind of gone through multiple changes, some of them popular, some of them not. And she's been handled by women who want to write her in a specific way. She's a character that's been abused, and that's what's caused her to not be as popular as she could be. Miss Marvel during the 2012, because that's when I think I dipped out, was 2012 era. I think she was in Golden Age, Heroic Age, New Avengers as Miss Marvel, and she looked cool. But she wasn't a big character. She wasn't Wonder Woman level, and Marvel decided that that's what they needed to make her. And they got a lot of female writers to kind of try and create her look and what she would be. And I believe it was, I forget his name, the chap that invented her costume, Kieran Gillen and someone else. Anyway, they turned her into this strident feminist, and that was the beginning of the end as the popularity for her. She required pushing, and in part of pushing her was inventing somebody who looked at her and said how great she was. And this is spin-off writing. You're trying to take something popular and spin off another character, but what Marvel have tried to do here is kind of like they've tried to slingshot you from one character around the other and back again. And it's like the infinity symbol. It's like, imagine you've got two planets and you're trying to get as much speed, and you can think you slingshot round one, you slingshot around the other, and you just keep slingshotting round. And that was the plan with Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel. You can actually see that that's what they were planning to do. The heat from the characters, but the problem is there's no wide appeal. Like, the Marvel Universe thrived on the loose links between the shows. What you actually did here was you kind of create this feedback loop that only certain people, like people who like Captain Marvel don't like Miss Marvel, might be tempted to like Miss Marvel when they meet Captain Marvel, but then they go back to being Captain Marvel fans. Meanwhile, the Miss Marvel fans who like her for what she is might like Captain Marvel because Miss Marvel likes her, but they don't like her. Do you see what I'm saying? Anyway, it creates a situation where you've kind of capped the popularity that you can ever get with that tactic. And then that's when we saw in normie media, like video games, because she's an Avenger, we'll stick her in the Avengers. So now normies know her as the Avengers girl. She's the de facto heart and soul of the Avengers. She's a really important character. But on the other side, she's a big fan of a character that we don't know, who's not in the game. So you're getting this really fragmented view of who she is. The irony is she's not actually that bad a character. She's just Spider-Man, a version of Spider-Man. And had she been given great stories to earn her way, she could have been a great character. Now she's getting written by some good writers, and she can actually be quite entertaining. She has a role. She had a role to play in that Avengers. They found a role for her that suited her, but again, they didn't really do an excellent job of explaining anything about her. I remember playing that Avengers game, and I was just like, they've made me play as her for half an hour, and I haven't learned anything about her as a character. But the model in the game was good. Her story made sense. She was a certain age, which made a lot of sense in terms of the Avengers world. But for me, that world wasn't very well realised as an Avengers experience. It kind of felt weird. It felt like the films, but it felt like the comics, and it felt like this weird hybrid. It was just too much, and the game itself wasn't great. So it was a real shame, if you were trying to make her popular, that you had an opportunity to literally define who she was, and then obviously they made it her origin story and Terrigen, and everything about her is all messed up. Now she's a mutant, and this was all about killing. This entire book seems to have been about killing her off to make her a mutant. And the TV show did this. And so we're seeing this endless situation where characters are being forced on us with terrible stories, and then they'll change it one week to the next. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a creative process. Making comics is a creative process. But one of the things I would say why we're seeing this rejection of characters like this is because you're not prioritizing stories. They're not telling stories of people. Like, it started out fairly safely, fairly interestingly, but then they want to tell you that they're trying to tell you something. It's not, you don't get this feeling that you're being led through a story that is organic or real. And I'd just say that this is endemic of what the storytelling is. I could go on forever about this, because this book kind of, when I picked it up, and I was like expecting like an absolutely awful, terrible story. But what we got was a maudlin set of contrived emotional reactions from superheroes, basically saying that this character is the best character. Then they made it a number one, and then they made it the death of Miss Marvel, and then they immediately spoiled it by saying she's coming back in the next episode of X-Men on Krakoa as a mutant. It's just like, what is Marvel doing? I don't understand what the writers at Marvel do. I don't understand why they do the things they do. This is dross. And the reason it's dross isn't because of the people that made it. It's because of the heart that's created it, inspired it. The way that they've gone about marketing it. It feels like a marketing exercise disguised as a poignant comic book story. And that's why when I saw this on the counter, knowing that she'd already been greenlit to come out in the X-Men as a mutant in the press, it felt so hollow. And I just can't imagine being a fan of this book and seeing this on the shelf and thinking, yeah, I want to be dragged down this histrionics. I want to view these histrionics by all these major characters. If you like Miss Marvel, you don't care what these guys say. She is your character. You don't need to see Spider-Man crying about her and absolutely blathering to know that she's your main. Why? You're just tearing this down. This gave me the level of cringe when Doctor Doom was crying about people at the World Trade Center. I remember buying that comic and the exact same emotions I had of reading that the memorial issue of the 9/11, watching Doctor Doom crying over a load of American dead people. See, this is the problem when you're trying to bridge that gap between reality and comics. That cringe is going to happen, but it can be excused and waved away because it's such a poignant, powerful thing that's happened in the real world. We are trying to make sense of something real. This is trying to engineer that emotion right from the get-go, and it is kind of insufferable. It's almost like somebody read that issue, thought, wow, I want to write something as powerful as that, and then decided, I'm going to write something as powerful as that. but they have got no real world disaster. The real world disaster they've created is that this character's dead and she's never coming back, except she is coming back in about a month. Honestly, I honestly cannot understand what is going on in the comics world. it's just crazy. An endless stream of just things that happen and characters that are meaningless being praised by other characters to show the audience that they're really cool, honest, believers. Anyway, if you want to read a really cool comic, I've got Intrepid 2 coming out. Yeah, I've got a promo that's working. I'm working on at the minute, so I'll post links for that in my bio. But yeah, if you want to read comics, I like this. You and I are probably not going to get on. But I want to just say everyone has the right to whatever they like. But if you like this, I just say we're probably not going to get on. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.